Boy, oh boy, I love Revit so much. It is Autodesk's answer for architectural design. And if you are using Revit or have an interest in using Revit, I would like to be your personal Revit guru, the Revit guy that you turn to for all of your needs. Welcome, and today we'll be talking about collaboration tools in the Revit software. And today we'll be talking about collaboration and the ability to have everything run smoothly inside of the Revit software with so many people working together at the same time. Okay, stop! Inside of the Revit software with... Okay, today we'll be looking at collaboration in the Revit software and the ease which Revit employs tools that allow everyone to work together smoothly, to put everyone in the right place, to put everything in the right place, and to allow everyone to work together seamlessly, giving everyone the ability to have work sets that put everything in the right bucket, to allow people to not use other people's content when they are utilizing it, and to collaborate everything together, synchronizing the software and the content smoothly and efficiently. Let's take a look at it. In this project, I will open up the Collaborate tab. Under Manage Collaboration panel, you have Collaborate and Workset. Worksets are a bucket or a location where everything in your model can be placed in a certain workset position that can be named and labeled specifically. It works very similar to layers in AutoCAD, but you would not have as many layers in Revit for worksets as you would in layers in AutoCAD. Too many worksets can be confusing and harder to work with. Additionally, you can only use worksets once you have collaboration turned on. So if you turn worksets on or enable them, it automatically enables collaboration as well. And once you save your file after that, it automatically becomes a central model file. So in here, I will go to the Manage Collaboration tab and turn Collaborate on, which opens up this dialog box where it asks you if you want to collaborate within your own local network or within the cloud. Collaborate in Cloud means that you'll be using the BIM 360 or the Autodesk Cloud Service. Within your own network means that you'll be creating a local central file on your local server where everyone on your team can access, but everyone on the team must have local network access at the same time. So choosing within network, click OK. It will go through a process of now turning on collaboration inside of this file. And the only difference that you can tell is that it now says Collaborate in Cloud instead of just Collaborate, because that will let you switch to collaborating in the cloud after turning on the central file collaboration. And worksets are now enabled, where it automatically places everything on workset 1 in the project, and only levels and grids have been placed on the shared levels and grids workset. So both of these are automatically created. Everything else has been placed on workset 1 automatically. This is very similar to layer 0 in AutoCAD, where you have everything placed on the same workset, and we'll go through a process of separating everything into specific worksets that make sense. From here, once I have the workset dialog box open, I'm going to create new worksets by choosing new and creating logical worksets for placing content on, such as exterior content for the building, interior content, building core content, which could be stairs and elevators and vertical penetrations. You'll also notice there's an option that says visible in all views. This automatically allows all the content on those worksets to be displayed in every view by default. You can uncheck this option and then label this with certain content being displayed in each view, and you can manually turn that content on through each view in the workset. Create a furniture workset that is not visible in all views by default. So with these created, clicking OK, it will ask you if you want to create furniture workset as the active workset because it was the last one created. Similar to layers, this is the same thing as your current layer. So the current workset means that anything you create will automatically be added to that workset. I'm going to say no for right now. And under active worksets, it says workset 1, and I have a drop-down list that shows you all of the worksets that were just created. At this time though, I still have a central file created and I have the central file open. I have not saved it since I turned collaboration on. I will do that now. Going to the File tab, Save As option, and choose Cloud Model. Save current Revit project. That appears when you have collaboration turned on as well. I'm going to now go to my main C drive under a folder called My Company Project, and I like to save this project file under a subfolder called BIM or Revit Content. Anything that is separating it from all of the project documentation and contract, placing it under here. I'm also going to label this architectural project -central. And before saving this, go to the options button, select that. And you'll notice where it says make this a central model after save, which has a checkbox next to it and it's grayed out. This means that you cannot turn this option off, and it will automatically turn this file into a central model after saving. So once you turn collaboration on and you save the file, the only choice is to make it a central model file. Click OK, click save again, and it has now saved the project as a central model file. Again, it looks like nothing has really changed, but at this time, I now have the central model file open, and that is not a good practice because anyone working on this project cannot synchronize to the central file if someone has it open. So you want to immediately close this file and then go back into the save location where that's been created. And when you click on that file, you'll see a preview of it on the right-hand side. It will say the file name down below, and where it says work sharing, you'll see the option where it says create new local with a checkbox and detach from central. These two options inform you that this file has been created as a central file, correct? And when you are creating or opening a file from the central model, you always want to choose create new local with a checkbox. This allows you to download a copy of the central file to your own local computer, and this local file is connected to the central file so that you can synchronize and collaborate your work to all other members of your team, and everyone will have a local copy of the project and be synchronizing with the central file over and over again, where you will download their content, upload your content, and they can download your. So that is a seamless process that is used to collaborate within the Revit software. The other option is called detach from central. This is an option that you can choose if you want to open this file but not have it connected to the central file anymore. This is used for temporary content. If you want to just look in the file, if you are not planning to work on the file actively, you can use this to completely disconnect yourself from the central file. Maybe you're working on something that is a sample or testing something out as designed, and it's not going to be part of the main file. So there's a couple of reasons that you might want to do that, but typically you will create new local each time you open the file each day. So when I choose open, it will create a downloaded copy of that file, and a underscore appended username is added to the end of the file name. So now when I go to the Collaborate tab, Synchronize panel, Synchronize with Central drop-down list, and choose Synchronize and Modify Set. Click on this option. This is where you'll synchronize all of the work that you created with the central file that was just added. The central file name is listed up here top, telling you where it's located, and down the bottom, you have an option that says, after synchronizing, relinquish the following work sets and element. In this dialog box, I highly recommend you select every checkbox that's available each time that you synchronize your file. At this time, I only have user-created work sets able to be checked because I just added work sets to the project and have not saved them or synchronized them to the central file. With each synchronization that you make, you can add comments to this list. It is not a requirement by Revit, but your company might have some sort of guidelines or requirements for you to add something here. Or you can add them on occasion when you know that there was a big change that was added at that time. So I can say work sets enabled. And this will be tracked and added to a list of historical information that you can review within the central file as well. At the bottom it says save local file before and after synchronization with central. This is a good idea to check because it will save the file first to the local computer, which you will continue to save your file locally before synchronizing often. It will save that file on your local machine first, then synchronize with the central file, uploading your content and relinquishing any of the content that you are using, and then downloading any of the content from the central file that other members of your team have implemented, and you'll now have an updated copy from the central file. Then it will save that file locally again after that synchronization has been done. This is a good practice for a couple of reasons. If your Revit happens to crash during or right after that synchronization takes place, you will now have a local copy of that file synchronized completely and updated, so you don't lose any connected work or connection to that central file just because your computer lost connection or it crashed or lost computer power for some reason. Just a good backup practice for that. Click OK. It will go through a process of synchronizing to the central file all the changes that were made. When I go back to Synchronize with Central, that checkbox is now unavailable because I don't have anything remaining still to be synchronized or relinquished. Now, if I go to this project, after it has been turned into a central file and I have collaboration turned on, I can now utilize my content with my other members of my team. Using the view control bar, 1, 2, 3 icons from the right is an option called Work Share Display Options. Click that and I have choices for checkout status, ownership, model updates, and Worksets. When I click on owners, it turns on a orange surrounded perimeter with owners in the name. And if I come down here and I can select this chair and change it to a different chair type, it's hard to tell, but this is now a purplish color instead of the gray color of the other content. So that color indicates that my user now owns that chair because I modified it. And if your user owns that content by modifying it or manipulating it, no one else can adjust or touch that chair until I've let it go with the central file. I can also select an individual element, such as this wall, right-click on it, and choose to make elements editable. That tells the server that I am now using that wall, even though I haven't modified it yet. I want to use it or own it so that no one else can use it at this time. So it's kind of like checking out the content before you're using it, or you can initially just modify the content, and as long as no one else is using it, it will automatically add itself to your name. So now that I've changed that wall type, it is now the purple color, which is now listed under my name. You can continue that process indefinitely, and as long as no one else is using that content currently, you can check that content out or edit the information. At any time, you can also hover over the object. It will tell you what object it is, what workset it's on, and the current user that owns that item. Another task that needs to take place is currently all of the objects are on a single workset for Workset 1. In the Work Sharing Display options, there's a drop-down list and choose Worksets. This will show all of the content currently on Workset 1 with this purplish color. I now want to go through a process of transferring everything from Workset 1 onto the specific workset established for it. To do that, I'm going to go to Visibility Graphic. Once you have Worksets enabled, you have a new tab called Worksets. Once I click on that, I have all the Worksets listed here, and each one has an option that lets you show, hide, or use global settings. For each of these except Workset 1, I will change them to be hidden so that as I move things from Workset 1 to a different workset, it will hide them in the view, and I'm going through a process where everything will then be invisible once I've placed everything off of Workset 1 onto a specific workset. Click OK, and then go through a process of transferring everything to the correct workset. To do this, you'll select a group of content, go to the Properties window where it says Worksets Property, choose Workset 1 drop-down list and change it to a specific workset like exterior. It now makes that invisible because I've hidden that in the view, and you'll go through a process of continuing that around the rest of the building. If there are objects that you cannot change by properties, make sure you filter those elements out. Perhaps curtain wall grid lines is the offending issue. Maybe curtain panels. And then push those on the correct workset as well. I'll continue that process until everything is removed from the view. Now that everything has been disabled in the view visibly, that means everything is not on Workset 1 any longer, and Workset 1 is now empty of content. Workset 1 is also required to exist, very similar to, again, Layer 0, but you don't have to have anything placed on it for it to exist. Then I'll go back to Visibility Graphics, choose the Worksets dialog box again, and I will enable all of the hidden workset views to use global settings. and everything will now be displayed again. Notice that content are now placed on colored elements to indicate each work set, because they've been placed on the correct work set environments. In the active work set drop-down list, you can switch to a specific work set type. So now I can switch to furniture, and anything I add now will automatically be created in the furniture work set. So once I add something at this time, it will automatically be added to that work set. And when I click on the content, it tells you it's work set here, and you can always switch them from the drop-down list. In the Collaborate tab, Manage Collaboration panel, next to work sets you have gray inactive work sets. Selecting that will disable all of the other work sets from being vibrantly colored in a dark graphic, and it will gray everything else so it looks less intense, indicating that you're on a different work set than the others that are selectable. You can still manipulate content, but they are grayed out because you're not on that active work set. When you switch to different work sets, it will highlight that information with a darker color. I recommend using this option because it indicates which work set you're actively working in at all times, and that will help you to understand where you're working currently, so you don't place things in the wrong work set accidentally and have to change it later. Now, any of the content that I've just modified, my user still owns that information, so I have to go back to Collaborate. Under the Synchronize panel, choose Synchronize and Modify with Central. Choose Synchronize and Modify Settings. I highly recommend that you use this option to synchronize and modify settings each time that you synchronize, so that you see this dialog box allowing you to check any of the boxes that are available, to synchronize and then relinquish all of the ownership content that you have, so that anyone needing to use the information is always available to use that content without asking someone to release that content or to let it go, or to wait for someone to let go of that content if they're using it. And if you are holding on to that content and not using it, it's going to hold other members of your team up that want to use that content, where they now have to ask questions for who is using that content or can you let it go. It will help to streamline the process to be more efficient. So now I can say OK. It goes through the process of synchronizing all of that content to the central file, and I can move on with the rest of the project. I have now turned on two sets of the Revit software with the same file opened under the same username, unfortunately, to demonstrate how work sharing can look within the central model file and using content over the network. So for instance, if I zoom in closer into, say, this upper left-hand corner, when I have the ownership work sharing display enabled, when I select this wall, right-click and say Make Elements Editable, it will make this purple, and also it will update the other model file as well. So this is an indication that when you're working in the live Revit collaboration file, any users that own this content, the server will update the file immediately to show other people where the content is being utilized. So that is an indication to other users that no one else can use this wall and make modifications to it until that user relinquishes that information. And if you need to know who's using it, you can always hover over that and it'll tell you the current owner. And as long as that owner is holding onto that content, no one else can manipulate it. You can also contact that person and ask them if they are still using the content and can relinquish it or let it go, so that you can then work on it, so that some sort of communication is still required working within collaboration in the software. It's a good practice to at least talk to each other throughout the whole team to understand the needs of other users, so that if you are holding on to something, either accidentally or that you're planning to work on it later, that you're using it right now, but you are not using it or updating it at the moment, you can then relinquish that content, giving the other person ownership, allowing them to work on it, and then you can take ownership of it again later. So it helps to keep everything streamlined by allowing all members to utilize the correct content at any time. Additionally, if I select content, such as this wall, and I make a change to it, such as modifying the wall type, my user now owns this wall, and my user now owns this wall over here, but you can see that they are different. So this file is not the same as this file any longer because they're two separate files. So when this happens, Revit knows that my owner has changed this information, but the other user has not seen those changes yet. So for that to take place, this user must synchronize with the central file. Again, checking any of the boxes located down here, and click OK. Once that takes place, the user has now relinquished all of the ownership of this content, but now this user can look at content where it says Model Updates, and it will indicate that this wall has a change applied to it that is not visible here because I've not downloaded any of the updated content from the server. So this is a good practice to understand where content has been changed, but you are not seeing the current updates at this time. I can then go to Synchronize with Central, Synchronize and Modify Settings, again upload any of my data, relinquishing content, but then also downloading data from the central file that other people have manipulated. So now when I click OK, it goes through that process of synchronizing with the central. I can now see the updated change that the other user has made, allowing me to continue to work with all of the updated information as correctly as possible. That process will continue to run seamlessly throughout the lifetime of the project. A few other options that are helpful to understand is when I go to the Collaborate tab, Synchronize panel. A few other options that you do have are to relinquish all mine, reload latest, and with the drop-down list choose Synchronize now. These options are available, but again, I still recommend that you would use the Synchronize and Modify settings. Synchronize now will upload any of your content to the central file, but not download any of the content from other users. And it also does not relinquish any of the content that you own. Reload Latest will download any of the content from the central file that other members have uploaded that you do not have just yet. Relinquish All Mine will release any of the content that you own, but also not upload content to the central file and not download any content from the central file. So again, I highly recommend that you use the Synchronize and Modify settings option, checking all of these boxes when available, so that all of those processes are satisfied at the same time. It's a much better practice for the whole team to use this dialog box so that everyone is continuously synchronizing their content and seeing the benefit of letting go of their information regularly so that other members can use the content without issue. Another option under the Collaborate tab, Synchronize panel, is to turn on Work Share Monitoring. This is a tool that allows you to visualize the content from the central files that you are accessing and see where other users are accessing the file as well. Clicking on that will open a dialog box showing you any of the users that are currently working in the project, whether they're synchronizing currently, and what information is available within that central model file. This is a good practice to turn on this information. Also, importantly to understand is only one user can synchronize to the central file at any time. So if there's already a user synchronizing to the central file, their process must finish before you or the next person can synchronize as well. And Revit will take that as a first come, first served basis. The next person in line will synchronize after that, and then the following, and so on. So you can see in this list who is actively working in the central file connection and who is synchronizing as well. We'll keep that information up to date at all times. As you may be using links in your Revit software, I would recommend creating a workset specifically for Revit and AutoCAD links. This is another good process to separate the content from the rest of the information in your project and gives you the ability to turn that information on and off in specific views. And then selecting any links that you want to manipulate, placing them on that workset. I hope you enjoyed that little excerpt from the Revit software on collaboration tools and how Revit can assist your team with any size project and multiple users working on the same files at the same time across multiple areas of business and disciplines. This channel is sponsored by Imaginet Technologies. With over 20 years of experience and more than 100 industry experts, Imaginet is well equipped to assist with any needs for software, training, implementation, including Productivity Now, a video training resource for many types of industry-leading software. Check out the available licensing packages at Imaginet.com. Contact Imaginet today and mention this channel to get a special offer. Check out our previous videos below. Comment below and tell us more information you'd like to see covered in the Revit software. Like and subscribe to this channel so you can get the latest updates for each time that we post new videos and tutorials on how to use the Revit software. Don't miss it.